I'm very late to the party in this one, but I've finally been playing Deus Ex Human Revolution. I've been looking for a good immersive RPG to play, one a bit more linear than the offerings of Bethesda games, and Eidos Montréal have given me everything I could want with this one. Taking place in a futuristic dystopian setting, transhumanism is the name of the game, with main character Adam Jensen being a security officer for the biggest company leading research on augmentations, giving humans artificial organs to enhance our day-to-day life. This is a hot button issue throughout the game as we hear from pro and anti-augment groups respectively, and it's handled perfectly through our very own character. Early on in the story, Jensen's forced to undergo many of these enhancements himself after an accident, and this is how we managed to personalise him. Jensen has a pre-existing backstory, personality, but with augments it's unclear to himself and his colleagues whether he's the same as he used to be, which gives us our opportunity to essentially mould him as we see fit. As with any action RPG worth its salt, you can play this game killing everyone as you ramble through front entrances, play it stealthy during a pacifist run, etc, but it has another layer here as we can define how these robotics have affected us. While we, the player, learn of the advantages and disadvantages of augments, it's mirrored with Jensen learning more about his own body and the company he works for, and it's a fantastic way to further immerse us in our role and the world surrounding us. The structure of the game helps add to this in a few ways too. While there's a fair amount of side quests to do, it's overall a far smaller game than any of the big true open world RPGs you get, but that isn't really a bad thing. The game guides you through the story at a good pace, breaking things up at appropriate times with side quests that can help give context to certain events or flesh out certain characters, and overall it's just given more attention than most RPGs due to its small scale. Honestly, if I had to compare it to anything, I'd say it's a more open Metro game, and I imagine Exodus will share a few similarities to this when it arrives. All the areas are superbly crafted, with some surprising differences between each one considering the similar dystopian architecture the world has. In contrast to your starting area, Hengsha for example is a dense city with the rich and poor living on different levels, allowing for multiple escape routes and easy navigation. The game also offers numerous routes into every major building to accommodate the claim of different playstyles. I've been doing a semi-pacifist run as I try to talk and hack my way out of most situations, made a lot easier by just how damn broken the social enhancer upgrade is. So basically, every time you level up you earn what's known as a Praxis point, which allows you to invest in something new in your skill tree. For a single point you can manage to rinse NPCs for the best rewards, gain the best outcomes in story scenarios, avoid entire hostile areas just because you're chummy with the guards. Jensen becomes the most charismatic bastard alive, and it makes the game so much easier. That said, it's quite fun to use and not as straightforward as you might think. To make that Bethesda RPG comparison I seem to love, it's basically a straight upgrade of how the speech skill worked in Skyrim. While not particularly hard, Deus Ex requires you to pay attention to who you're talking to as you try to gauge their personality type and respond accordingly. It gives a good sense of satisfaction and it can make you understand a lot of the characters better too, so while it's a small inclusion it adds a lot to really involving you in the conversation taking place. Sometimes it's almost like I'm in a boss battle when these moments happen with important characters, and it's a cool feeling no other game has managed to replicate for me. As far as the other upgrades go, they're solid. I can't fault them really, they allow you to personalise your character to suit your playstyle and are simply enough for the most part. Seeing through walls for stealth, defense, health and energy increases, standard stuff. That said though, leveling up is fairly easy and you'll probably get most of the upgrades in a single playthrough anyway, which is a damn good thing thanks to boss battles being kinda broken. Annoyingly, the game limits your playstyle a fair bit in these instances, as while there are multiple ways to win, you're going to be head on and killing bosses most of the time. Some people will be upset that a true pacifist run isn't technically achievable, which is understandable, and also handicaps those putting points in stealth primarily, like myself. There's also the bigger issue here that the bosses are kinda just shite. Maybe I'm just awful at games, I dunno, but if you want to just face off against these guys, you're going to get your shit kicked in, and it's not fun to get one shot over and over. All hype I had story-wise gets destroyed by dying repeatedly, and I never looked forward to these fights to be honest, probably the worst part of the game for me. That isn't to knock the gunplay though, as it does the job. This game isn't primarily an FPS, and as such the controls are a bit more rigid than the norm, and favours cover-based shooting. A wise move is even standard enemies can shred you if you don't pay attention, so slowing the pace for more methodical gameplay works well. Sound design is good and gives some weight to weapons I found, with pretty good physics for corpses to boot. Made each death stand out more than you'd expect. As I was saying earlier, there are multiple entrances to buildings to suit whatever playstyle you have, though there's not much variety. If you want to do a stealth or pacifist run, you're going to be getting in through vents about 500 times in your playthrough, but I actually like the familiarity offered here as I could more or less guess where to go when entering a building. Looking for vents, looking for security panels nearby, scouting sewer entrances, I was prepared. Made me feel like a top tier stealth guy, you know? This game is honestly fantastic. Being a shorter, more focused RPG did it a lot of good, allowing for perfect pacing that helps convey an intriguing story with solid mechanics to build the game's foundation. If you want an immersive world and a great story in one package, few can compare to this one.